Bring it back to the board for any comments or concerns.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I actually would like to pull number 3 for a question and number 16 for a modification.
3 and 16, you said?
Just 3 just for a question, though 16 I am going to be asking for a modification.
Okay, I'd move to approve items 1 through 15.
I'll second that.
1 through 15 with the absence of 3, removal of 3?
Yeah, my only question or suggestion on 3 is that once we have an HR director up in place, that we substitute out one of these gentlemen or one of these positions to that HR director. And I'm sure that was already on the plan, but I just wanted to make sure. And then, do you want to do the poll and then I'll do 16?
Yes. Please poll the vote.
Supervisor Starkey,
Yes.
Supervisor Short,
Yes.
Supervisor Borges,
Yes.
Supervisor Howard,
Yes.
Chair Wilson.
Yes.
And if I could, Chair, with regard to
Yes,
16.
with regard to 16. please.
I believe there was some conversations when this has been discussed about putting a cap on it. So I would move to approve number 16 with the modification that the total amount of stipends paid during the ERP project implementation shall not exceed $150,000 without prior approval of the Board of Supervisors.
Any comment from the CO? Okay.
None, Chair. Supervisor Starkey is correct. We talked about that during the discussions of the resolution, and it was something that was overlooked by the group that put the resolution together. So if the board's on board with that, and we're fine with that as well. That was direction given by the board.
Yes.
So we have a motion?
I have a second.
Yeah, we have a motion and a second. Any public comment on number 16? Seeing none, bring it back to the vote for a poll vote, please.
Supervisor Howard,
Yes.
Supervisor Borges,
Yes.
Supervisor Short,
Yes.
Supervisor Starkey,
Yes.
Chair Wilson.
Yes. That brings us up to general government, and at number 20, approve and authorize the chair to enter into AIIA form to agreement between Delaware County and Nicholas Mulberg and Rosetto Architects for the design of the initial phase of the Delaware County General Renovation Project as requested by the county administration.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve as read into the record.
Second.
Do we have any public comment on this issue? Seeing no public comment, bring it back to the vote, please.
May I ask who seconded?
Darren. Supervisor Short.
Supervisor Starkey,
Yes.
Supervisor Borges,
Yes.
Supervisor Howard,
Yes.
Supervisor Short,
Yes.
Chair Wilson.
Yes. Brings us to 21, which is to provide community members and residents of Pacific Terrace Manor an opportunity to comment on the upcoming tree removal project at 1115 Williams Drive as requested by the risk manager. Do we have any public comment into this issue?
Hi, my name's Mike Bean, and I own one of the units in there. I'm very happy that you're addressing this. A tree came down last February, took out the shed on my property, and my neighbor's roof was damaged. And there's a couple other trees right there that I'm just lucky that it missed my son's bedroom. But I would request that in this contract, if possible, that they remove the rest of that tree that's on my property. I had to cut it back enough to clear the shed out, but I'm incapable of removing the rest of that myself, and Pacific Terrace doesn't seem to want to mess with it. It's on a hillside. It's possibly could roll down into his residence, and if that could be included, I would appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Seeing no further comment, bring it back to the board. Welcome a motion.
Do we need to have a motion?
It's just
No.
Or this was just a matter of
Just
public
a,
comment?
okay.
Yes.
All right. This brings us up to 22. Budget transfers. We approve and adopt budget transfer 0619 to the amount of $169,955 within the county service area number 1 budget unit and allow payment services provided during the fourth quarter fiscal year. Also 23, adopt and resolution 621, the amount of $154,289 within the contingency budget unit to allow the payment of expenses related to the Smiths River Complex fires in the fiscal year 23-24, as requested by OAS fiscal manager. Also approve and adopt number 622, 154,289, again within the OAS budget to allow the payment expenses related to the Smiths River Complex fire.
move to approve, Mr.
Oh,
Chairman.
we got one more. Approve and adopt number 620 to the amount of $50,381 within the 24-25 budget nuisance budget unit to purchase the replacement of vehicle using insurance reimbursement revenues that were received from Trentel and authorize the purchase of a 2024 Ford F-150 ST four-wheel drive Super Crew truck with a purchase price not to exceed $50,381 by the Director of Community Development.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any public comment? Seeing none, pull the vote, please.
Supervisor Short,
Yes.
Supervisor Starkey,
Yes.
Supervisor Borges,
Yes.
Supervisor Howard,
Yes.
Chair Wilson.
Yes. This brings us to legislative and budget issues. Number 26, approve and adopt section 10.10.045 budget workshops. General fund departments has directed by the board to authorize staff to incorporate this section into Title 10 county budget process on the administrative manual as requested by the county administrative officer and budget officer. Is there any public comment? Having no public comment, bring it back to the board for consideration.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second.
Just one comment, Mr. Chairman. I know we had a considerable amount of debate on this. I know I'm skeptical about these upcoming workshops, but I'm willing to sit through them and see how it goes. But I really hope the intent of these workshops, as explained by the supporting supervisors, fulfills what they hope the public's going to gain from them. And we'll see how it works out.
Any other comment? We have a motion and a second. Please poll the vote.
Supervisor Howard,
Yes.
Supervisor Borges,
Yes.
Supervisor Starkey,
Yes.
Supervisor Short,
Yes.
Chair Wilson.
Yes. 27, authorize and approve and authorize the use of previously designated capital improvement funding for the development of County Delmart Americans with Disabilities Act Evaluation and Transition Plan to the amount of $149,960 at the request of the Administrative Programs Manager and Risk Manager.
Move to approve.
Second.
Is there any public comment? Seeing none. Bring it back to the vote. Poll the vote, please.
Supervisor Starkey,
Yes.
Supervisor Howard,
Yes.
Supervisor Borges,
Yes.
Supervisor Short,
Yes.
Chair Wilson.
Yes. Number 28, approve and adopt section 10.20 pertaining to the Measure R eligibility department funding request and authorize staff to incorporate this section into Title 10 county budget process in the county administrative manual as requested by the county administrative officer and the budget officer. Is there any public comment? Hearing none, seeing none. Bring it back to the board.
Can I just ask a clarifying question? Is this just something that should have been done before and just never got into the manual, or is it something extra?
The resolution was updated in 2023. The admin manual had already been updated. And so this is after the admin manual update. And so when the board approved the update to the resolution last year, making the committee both advisory, then this is why during the budget process, we realized this needs to be added based on the resolution and how it outlines the process of bringing Measure R requests forward.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I'll move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
I apologize, who seconded? Oh, thank you.
Supervisor Howard. Poll the vote, please.
Supervisor Borges,
Yes.
Supervisor Short,
Yes.
Supervisor Howard,
Yes.
Supervisor Starkey,
Yes.
Chair Wilson.
Yes. Number 29, receive and review preliminary feasibility report providing various considerations of the option of the county-based regional economic development services as previously directed by the board on the strategic plan. Upon review of the information provided at the preliminary feasibility report, direct the Economic Development Technical Advisory Committee to develop a final feasibility report, but then further examine the feasibility of the options presented to the preliminary report to the form recommendations to the board, considering relating to the questions as whether or not the county should provide economic development services and or not, and if so, by which method as requested by the Assistant County Administrative Officer.
Did you guys get all that?
I got all that.
Okay, good.
Go.
Good morning, Chair, members of the board. So just wanted to give you an update on the report that was presented as part of your agenda packet today. So obviously the board is aware the supervisors included economic development within the strategic plan as a kind of enhanced focus area, one of the frameworks of the plan. In June, as the dissolution of the Tri-Agency Economic Development Authority was appearing to become imminent, this action item was escalated within the plan. Staff received direction from the board to basically move that item up and try to get ahead of this. Really had to do, I think, with the board's recognition of the importance that economic development plays within the community. Obviously, the board is the only local governing board that represents the entire county. There are other local governing boards that represent portions of the county, and I think the Tri-Agency was really, the intention was to have a partnership where you would kind of tap into those other agencies and have a coordinated effort to address these really critical issues to the community. For a variety of reasons, Tri-Agency had its difficulties. I think what we tried to convey in this report is that really there's a degree of seriousness and investment that the county needs to have in order for anything to be successful. And so what we did was we engaged in conversations and discussions with other counties who were doing this. I think there were 13 counties in total that were noted in your feasibility report as being engaged in some fashion in economic development. And really, I think it should be pretty clear in the report that you can engage in economic development as a county in a number of different ways. It's very specific to you and your needs, your community's needs, your community's vision for where it wants to be in the future. But really, the one commonality that I think is important to emphasize and acknowledge is that it's really the prosperous counties who are doing this. Delaware County, we're not. The economic data that's presented in your report is pretty stark in terms of our situation, job opportunities, educational levels, median incomes. The data that's presented is pretty irrefutable. And in my mind, there's a direct correlation, at least, between the investment by the community in economic development and these issues. Because again, the other commonality is kind of the inverse of what you see in prosperous communities, and that is in communities that are not. You don't see this type of attention or investment. So I think it's as your staff, I'm very proud of the board for taking an interest in this issue and understanding that maybe something at some point just has to be done in order to change those dynamics, hopefully. So again, this is a preliminary feasibility report. The conversations that we had through the RCRC, through CSAC, through the California Association of Local Economic Development, it was really broad in scope. And what we tried to do was to present really, how is this being done in most other counties where economic development is included as part of the services that are provided by the county. Typically, it's through a couple different ways, which are outlined in your report. And the hope after today, at least, is that the board can review this preliminary information and give direction to your Economic Development Technical Advisory Committee to really drill down on these issues and get more granular. And hopefully to make a recommendation for a future meeting of the board on where we want to go with this or where you want to go with this as a board for the community. So again, speaking in pretty broad terms, we just tried to kind of cover the highlights. But if there's any specific questions that the board has today, we're certainly available. And we look forward to a future investigation and research into this really important issue. So I am available.
Thank you. Any questions?
I want to just say that I couldn't disagree with public comment more about the preparation of this report. This, to me, was the most amazing report. You provided pros and cons and what ifs and whatnots, and I feel whoever participated in the preparation of this report, I cannot thank you enough. You helped me as an individual to look at all the different information and have a real good understanding to make a good, solid decision today of whether or not we should move forward or not. So I would love to see every single board report like this, but I knew this took an enormous amount of time. I just want to thank the authors of whoever participated in this. This was beautifully written, and it was a great document for us to review. I do feel this is a very worthwhile project. I've always been a little hesitant. I think, and I still believe this, that we need to kind of do some in-house cleaning. We've got some stuff we've got to work on that will contribute to an economic development in the future. But because of this report and how it was worded and how it was set up and this potential using the existing economic tactical team, I think technical ATAC, whatever that is, the working group. I think that if there is the capacity for the 2 supervisors assigned to that, I really wish Supervisor Howard would have already been assigned to that, because I think this is something right in his wheelhouse that he could offer a lot. But the 2 supervisors assigned are very capable to move this forward as well. So I am very supportive of it, and I think it's worthwhile, and I'm looking forward to, if this gets approved, for how this is going to be brought forward to the whole board and the options presented.
Any other comment?
I just wanted to say that I agree about the preparation of the report. It was very well done also. I am on the Technical Advisory Committee, I believe, with Chair Wilson. I'd like to keep my ear to the ground on this, but absolutely would certainly yield to someone likely more capable and would do better for the county. So I am amicable to that if the discussion goes that way.
I did not mean to imply that you were not capable. The 2 gentlemen on the board or on the thing are very capable.
I did not take
I
it
just
that way.
know that Supervisor Howard, this is such his wheelhouse. So, but I'm fully comfortable with who's assigned.
Yes.
And just for clarification, I did look at who the Economic Development Technical Advisory Committee members are from the board. It is Chair Wilson and Supervisor Howard.
On my committee thing, it's Supervisor Howard in short.
Okay, well, we will confirm that
Okay.
with the clerk. But regardless, if it's the board's intentions to be specific about who, for the purposes of this report, should be appointed, I think that's certainly at your discretion. But the data that I had did indicate that it was Mr. Howard and Wilson, but we can chase that down. Yeah, just a point of clarification on that.
I show short Wilson as well.
Yeah.
But that's
So-
okay. Like I say, my feelings aren't hurt if something gets changed. I just want the best for the county. So.
Perfect.
As we go forward, I agree. I think, given the nature of what we're looking at, both in the areas of economic development, whether that is infrastructure, which has been something that I know Supervisor Howard has been on the forefront of whether it's 199, whether it's, has been on the real cutting edge, on the forefront of those types of discussions and going forward, or whether we're talking about the economic drivers within the community and bringing dollars into the economic development, which I know is there right now. It has been identified as one of our primary on our strategic plan. It is also well documented in your report to this issue and this matter. And just for the general public, everything we do as a government, to provide services to the public requires dollars and cents. And that's the reality that we live in. If we want to provide the best quality of service, if we want to be able to provide services in general, we are facing economic stressors at this point in time. The state is, we are, everybody is. The only way that we can help ourselves is to develop an economic economy within Del Norte County that improves and develops and brings more dollars into those coffers to provide those services. And we would be well served to be able to take these initial steps to look at how we as Del Norte County can provide a better service. Because for too long, we've been the last one at the day when the music goes off and there's no chair. And we have to do a better job at going out and grabbing those dollars that are out there and that are abundant right now for the very key issues that we're dealing with, whether it's fuel reduction, whether it's road improvements, whether it's infrastructure, whether it is climate change. I spent well over an hour and a half talking to the impacts of climate change into our community and the dollars that are coming out of the federal government and state government, looking at how we can best address and shore up the impacts of climate change. And some of those projects that would be going forward would be incredibly beneficial if we're at the beginning of the process and going for those dollars. And so I welcome this offer of moving this ball further down and looking at what opportunities we can best address economic development going forward. Thank you. Welcome a motion.
Just clarity questions, Randy. What kind of timeline do you believe you'll have with the EDA TAC on this? When could you expect the TAC to come back with a recommendation based on those feasibility pieces?
It's obviously hard to be really precise with something that isn't yet in motion. I think that being said, pulling together two supervisors, I mean, the purpose of having the tax structured in the way that they are is that they can be a little more responsive. I think we could probably have the process initiated in the next 3-4 weeks. Start those conversations, kind of see what things look like, have that engagement with the different organizations and agencies that I mentioned. I think we should spend the proper amount of time to get this right. I don't think we should rush it, but I think we could be underway in probably the next month. And then I would hope maybe in the next 4 to 5 months we could have a report completed, assuming everything goes according to kind of our expectations. But I wouldn't want to go any faster than that.
How does that look in respect to our budget, depending on what the TAC recommends to the board?
Well, ultimately, all the budget decisions are going to be decisions of the board. In terms of the implementation of whatever the recommendation from the TAC is, that would be to be determined, depending upon if it ends up being a funded position or a partnership or an MOU with other stakeholders. I think there's a lot of specifics that would need to be ironed out. But obviously, if the recommendation from the technical advisory committee is to create a position, then there's a whole set of processes that have to occur under that scenario. Yeah. So it's really hard to say, but I think in terms of the assessment piece of it, we could be completed within 5 to 6 months, okay. And then where we go from there is really up to the board.
I guess my bigger concerns is losing potentially a year, our fiscal year, and reacting properly to opportunities coming up and how they're addressed. I guess we just continue putting out fires as they arise. And so I guess I don't need to sit on the TAC. I'm perfectly comfortable right now with these pieces coming back to us through the current committee. And I haven't looked at it to see who's actually on it, so that'll be interesting. I guess my biggest feeling is let's not lose a lot of time here. There's a gap currently in our community. It's my understanding the city is not refilling their position either. And so losing a year with potential opportunities that we need to move forward on, if that's really going to fall in your lap, for lack of a better term. And I know you are way up here as far as things to do. So be more than happy to converse with you on those things that we need to move more clearly and more effectively on in a shorter time period before the gap, the TAC in this case, gets back to us.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Chair. Just
Yes.
real quick, I'd like to give credit where credit's due, and it was Mr. Hooper that developed this report, and I appreciate you guys giving him feedback on that. I really do. One other option that County Council and I were just talking about was that depending on how the board feels as far as who's involved in the TAC, the other option would be able to bring back an item that would create an ad hoc committee that would have Supervisor Wilson and Supervisor Howard on it. Because I do believe the TAC currently is Supervisor Short and Supervisor Wilson. So just whatever you guys want to do moving forward, just let staff know.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm very comfortable with the two that are appointed to it. I know that this is just of interest to Supervisor Howard, and he's brought a lot of great ideas to the table, but I am very comfortable. He can include those ideas when it comes to the full five of us.
Thank you. Any public comment? Hearing none. Bring it back to the board.
I have a comment on Zoom.
Oh, there is a comment on Zoom?
Alec Domka.
Yeah, hi, I'm Alec Domka. I'm the UC Cooperative Extension Advisor.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Yep, I think I sent over slides if they're ready. If not, I can just do it without it. Cool. So, hi board. So I have been working on my Del Norte needs assessment, and it directly relates to this economic development position. So my needs assessment, it's done by every UC advisor when they start a new position. So I went out and did clientele interviews and secondary data research to find out what economic development personnel need in Del Norte County, and then what general economic development is needed. We can flip the slides. Thank you. Cool. So my four biggest needs were capacity building and economic development, workforce development, physical and organizational infrastructure, tourism development, and housing. Number one by far, almost everyone I talked to mentioned that they need more staff and more staff trained in economic development to be successful. Specifically, a lot of people mentioned that the county's lack of a denoted economic development director or just personnel led them to work with either other counties or the city or the harbor. So we saw some pretty direct missing of opportunities because there wasn't someone like that. And this was all found in 24 interviews with people from all over Del Norte. It'd be a great point of contact. It'd be great to really spearhead projects, and it would really give Del Norte more of a showing at regional events. Normally it's maybe 4 of us that can make it, and we're losing some people from the city. So it'll be great to have someone who can show off Del Norte regionally. Workforce development. Our workforce development board is massive. So it's 11 counties, it's Del Norte, and then basically all the northeast corner. So we really need an economic development person to kind of work with them and work on workforce development, which is something that we just don't have the capacity to, especially there's not a whole lot going on beyond working on individual workers. There's not a whole lot of collective workforce development. That could be a real place that this position can shine. Organizational infrastructure, I saw this during the Smith River Complex fires. There were a lot of people who put in extra time and came out of their expertise to work on the relief for businesses. I know that was mentioned in the report as something for this position to work on, and that's a definite need because that kind of organizational infrastructure needs someone to spearhead it and keep it moving, push it along. Sustainable tourism development is just something we need, and that's kind of just a general thing that this position could work on. Housing, especially, the city's been able to do a lot of great things with housing, and I think the county could really benefit from someone to kind of take up the housing torch broadly for the county. So, yep, that's all I found. I think the big takeaway is almost everyone I talked to said that this position needs to exist, and that was with no prompting from me. That was just a natural reaction. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
No, just a comment. Alec, I appreciate it. I know you're really juggling a lot of weight for economic development with Del Norte County's needs. I appreciate the fact-based report given to the board. I truly hope you participate in the committee as it's developed with Mr. Hooper and our board members.
Thank you. I'd love to.
Thank you.
So all that's really required is direction. Is that correct? Or do you need a full-on motion?
If you recall the mouthful of an introduction that Chair Wilson made for this item, that's basically it.
Could somebody repeat that for me?
It is just the recommendation to the Technical Advisory Committee to take the preliminary report, develop a final report with recommendations to the board, something to that basic effect.
All right, what he said.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Please poll the vote.
Supervisor Starkey,
Yes.
Supervisor Borges,
Yes.
Supervisor Short,
Yes.
Supervisor Howard,
Yes.
Chair Wilson.
Yes. And that brings us to the end of our agenda, and I wish to thank each and every one of you for your careful attention and consideration as we went forward. To this I bid you find adieu, and we close